the passage of time, we have shared your joy at the birth of your children, and proudly we have watched them grow. We've taken care of your healthcare needs during the good times and the not so good. Your parents and grandparents have depended upon us. Together we have shared the struggles and the wonders of life. At Oktibbeha County Hospital, we are celebrating 30 years of being your lifelong choice in healthcare.
This meeting of the Starkville Board of Aldermen will now come to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, be followed by a brief moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first matter before you is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any proposed revisions for the agenda as written? Are there any proposed revisions? Are there any proposed revisions to the agenda? Seeing none, a motion to approve is in order. Motion's been made by Alderman Corey to approve the agenda. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Dumas. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. And next order of business is comments by the mayor and board. I have no comments tonight. Are there any comments from the members of the board?
I'd just like to remind everybody that the Christmas parade is Saturday night, 5 o'clock.
Yeah, always an exciting event, and we look forward to it this weekend. Any further comments by the members of the board? All right, seeing none, we'll move to citizen comments. Any citizen wishing to speak may speak for a maximum of 3 minutes, and please introduce yourself.
Greetings to the meeting board. My name is Alan Thomas, Ward 7. A week ago today, I turned 50, and so the children want me to continue to do what I'm doing. I still have a couple concerning that is, we're still waiting on the testing of the siren. That we're still waiting. We're still waiting on the this time of year is very hard on the pedestrian. If you can put a pedestrian sign at the four-way stop or two-way stop, some people do not stop. They keep straight through. We hoping to get the sidewalk going because with bad weather, people have a hard time. And we do not want to be walking in the street. And to the mayor, a lot of citizens getting heated about the statement. I think we need to try to change that and come up with a different statement. Thank you.
Further citizen comments?
Mayor and Alderman, thank you. My name is John Manning with the Greater Starkville Development Partnership, and I'm here representing both the partnership and the Golden Triangle Regional Airport Authority. You're considering a policy change to allow for, or to endorse and give preferential treatment for travel in and out of the Golden Triangle Regional Airport. I want to thank you very much for that. The airport is a real portal for us internationally. It's extremely valuable that we keep that airport, keep that going. Partnership has a Shop Starkville campaign going. This is a part of that campaign. By using the Golden Triangle Regional Airport, it really sends a message to the general public that we very much value that asset and that resource we have in our area. Just want to say thank you very much for that. Mike Hainsey was going to come speak with you tonight. He had to be over in Tuscaloosa for a endorsement of a scholarship for his son. So I want to pass on that message to him. So thank you very much for your consideration for that.
Any further citizen comments? And actually, Ms. Hilton is going to bring us a report, I believe, from the Commission on Disability. And we talked about this afternoon in the holiday shuffle. This is normally something that would go as a public appearance. We did not get this through the public appearance channel. So without objection from the board, I'll extend this one to a maximum of 10 minutes, as we would with a public appearance. Is there any objection from the board?
Actually, this evening, I wanted to give an award to a person from the community.
Oh.
That's a separate matter, but,
Oh, are you going to make the report as well?
no,
Okay.
I'm just gonna give.
Well,
an
I'm
award.
sorry for the confusion then.
That's okay. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it okay if I stand here so he'll know where to come?
Yeah.
The Commission on Disability gives Advocate of the Quarter awards periodically throughout the year, and we've given awards to many different people. We give it to people who improve the quality of life of people with disabilities in our community, and we've given out public service awards to Matt Cox and also the Starkville Police Department. We've given accessibility awards to businesses like Grumpy's and the Greater Starkville Development Partnership, and also Magnolia Rehab. And tonight, I'm very honored to give David Bouchard. Would you please come this way? David Bouchard is in Boy Scout Troop number 27. And you want to turn around and face the audience? Thank you. He's in Boy Scout Troop number 27, and he just finished his Eagle Scout project. And he is a senior at Starkville High School. And his Eagle Scout award was to make signs for Starkville High School. He made 60 to 70 directional signs that had visual cues and then also braille on the signs all throughout Starkville High School. And he spent about 200 hours on this project. And according to the Commercial Dispatch, he did this so that he can make Starkville High School a little less confusing. And I don't know if any of y'all have been there. It is pretty much a maze. I taught at Starkville High School, and it was a little bit hard to kind of know where to go for the first few weeks. David, I really appreciate you considering and choosing sensory signs at Starkville High School for your Eagle Scout project. I know that you spent a lot of hard work on this. I encourage each of you to take time to notice David's hard work and to also congratulate him for everything that he's accomplished. And you can also make nominations at commissionondisability@cityofstarkville.org. And would everybody please give him a round of applause? Gary's gonna
I'd like
read.
to read the certificate here. The City of Starkville's Commission on Disability bestowed distinguished recognition upon David Bouchard, Boy Scout Troop 27, for being named Commission on Disability Advocate of the Quarter. Congratulations, David. Thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
David, we congratulate you and thank you for all you've done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I am humbled by this award. I don't have any words to express my gratitude.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Are there any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Seeing none, our next order of business is to move to mayor's business. And the first matter you have for consideration before you is an amendment to the travel policy to reflect use of the Golden Triangle Regional Airport within approved guidelines. And you have a copy of that policy in the packet. It is the policy that Mr. Maynard spoke on just a second ago. He and the director of the airport actually came and visited with me a few weeks ago and pitched the idea of the city having a travel policy which guaranteed where it was possible and not overly financially burdensome, that the city would use Golden Triangle Regional Airport. This is something they are encouraging businesses throughout the Golden Triangle to do as well. They are trying to demonstrate to the airlines that fly through the airport that this is a viable, stable source of business. I think on a number of fronts, this is a very positive statement for us to make as a city. Not the least of which is we have a strong stake ourselves in the airport as we help fund the airport. The airport is also, as we've seen with the rollout of the Global Aerospace Initiative, a significant economic development tool for the region and will continue to be more so in the future. We need to be setting the example that we are behind this airport. We want to see it succeed in the future. As you see, there is an opt-out in the travel policy. If choosing a flight for city travel at GTR exceeds the total travel cost somewhere else by over $200, there's an opt-out provision. So with the minimal flying that the city does, this is really not a large monetary risk for us. And I think as the airport continues to ask for support from the business community, it's important that we as a city get out front and make a statement that we're behind the airport as well. Alderman Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me just say from the onset, and I want to appreciate what the airport is doing for our city and county. And as a matter of fact, I did ask Ms. Sproul at the next meeting, let's get a report from the partnership as to what we're doing in this city for economic development. I did ask Ms. Sproul to pull this matter from the consent agenda, not to oppose it, because I am a long-term staunch supporter of growth, pro-business, and economic development. I just want to have an understanding on this amendment that is before me. In my conversation with Ms. Sproul, it is my understanding that the only amendment to this policy is the underlining. Am I correct on that, Ms. Sproul?
Section 10, the air service issue in Golden Triangle Regional Airport is the change to Department Head of Board of Aldermen was the change to the authorization.
Okay, give me 2 minute words there. Let me make sure you understand. The only amendment to this policy is the change that is underlined. Is that correct?
No, sir, the Golden Triangle Regional Airport, the commence from and return to is new to the policy.
So
I apologize, I misled you when you asked me that earlier, I misunderstood, I'm sorry.
Okay, what's confusing to me is normally when there's an amendment, and maybe we need to do this in the future, so I have to pull my old draft out. That's what confused me. Whenever there's an amendment, we need to underline the new language. So that's what confused me, because when the mayor was giving this lengthy explanation about what was I missing, because I was taking this to mean that all the language that is not underlined is already in the policies. So my question, the reason I pulled it off was because I was going to ask why were we changing it from the Board of Aldermen to the department head or the mayor. So all the other language is new.
All of item 10 is new.
Okay. In the future, Mr. Mayor, it's just a misunderstanding.
Sure.
And I was just unclear. So in the future, and I support this, Mr. Maynard, okay? In the future, whenever we do an amendment, let's just underline or put in italics so we'll know what the amendment is. And I take it then that your language deleting Board of Aldermen to the mayor in case of department head or department head in case some employees, that's to be consistent with the board's intent on the policy then.
Sure, and
Okay.
and that language where it's department head is consistent with the rest of the travel policy.
That's what I'm saying, it's consistent. Okay, well, that clears up. So, Ms. Sproul, just in the future, if you can accommodate that, so I'm clear then. So basically then, that we just want to make sure that we utilize the Golden Triangle airport. Gotcha. And then in case that there's a delay there, then we can use a more convenient means. So that's good. That's good. And basically putting primary emphasis on the airport, and certainly we got to have some viable way of getting there. So I support that and make sure we have that done in the future. Thank you.
Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the attached revision to the city travel policy to specify the use of GTR Airport when air travel is to be used.
Alderman Dumas has made a motion to approve the attached amendment to the travel policy to specify the use of Golden Triangle Regional Airport when it fits. I got you. Alderman Dumas has made a motion to approve the attached revision to the city travel policy to specify the use of Golden Triangle Regional Airport when air travel is to be used. Alderman Dumas, is that your motion?
With the addition that the revisions allow exceptions to the use of GTR if there are issues with excess cost or flight arrangements.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the attached revision to the city travel policy to specify the use of GTR when air travel is to be used. The revisions allow exceptions to the use of GTR if there are issues with excess costs or flight arrangements. Is that your motion?
That is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion been seconded by Alderman Corey. Alderman Dumas, you wish to speak on the merits?
I do not.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next order of business is the consideration of the approval of a contract with Experience Works. I have been having conversations with city staff for the past several months now on how we can improve both our phone answering service and our greeting service at the front door of City Hall. And the problem that we may encounter from time to time, as I see it, is we are tasking the individual that sits at the front desk of City Hall with what sometimes is an impossible task. That person, and it is two different people, each sits at the desk part-time, has 10 different phone lines that come in to that desk that they are responsible for handling throughout the day. Also, they greet the traffic, which sometimes is light to moderate, sometimes is very heavy, that comes in through the front door of City Hall and refers them. So, as a means of addressing this, one of the solutions that we came up with in a brainstorming session was it might relieve some of that burden if we could get the people that are answering the phone off in an area where they can concentrate on answering the phone. And that accommodation has been made. We're now capable of having the person answering the phone in an office where they can handle those 10 phone lines. And we had initially talked about trying to have a volunteer program so that we would have a greeter that could make sure when somebody came in not knowing exactly where to go in City Hall, they could be directed to the appropriate location. In the meantime, the folks from Experience Works approached me about the program they have, and I think it's a very unique program that could work well with what we're trying to do. They are funded by grants from the federal government for the purpose of providing workforce training for senior citizens so that they can ultimately be placed somewhere else in the private sector for employment. They asked for host agencies and have asked us to be one such host agency where they can place somebody and they can get some on-site work training. I've had some conversations with them and talked about this program to inquire as to whether it would fit their training purposes, and they have indicated preliminarily that they thought it would. So this is a request to enter into a contract with them And the contract is attached. The most important thing to note about the contract is if something were to go wrong with this deal, it is severable by either party at any time. All that has to be provided is noticed, and it can be immediately severable. Alderman Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I likewise concur with your comments on this, and I first learned about this in the paper, the Starkville News on Saturday. Thanks for your report, or Brian's report, Kelly, on that on Saturday. The reason I asked is we put off the agenda, and I'm going to vote for it, but I just want to find out when will this start and when will it end? Can anybody from the staff answer that question?
As soon as the board is in concurrence with it, I will be in touch with the banks and begin the process of putting people in place.
Okay, do you have an idea when, just in case the public may ask, you have an idea when it may end, start and end?
Well, I do not, I apologize, I do
okay.
not.
Right.
I would guess we probably gear it up by the 15th of December or by the middle of December.
Right, it's certainly a good program. Once you find out, Ms. Brewer, would you give me an email response or a call and let me know, so in case my constituents want to know? This is very good for the cities. No cost, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your work on this. Thank you.
Further discussion. Alderman Carter.
Mr. Mayor, I'm also in favor of this. I just had a couple, I don't have my packet in front of me. This is a one-year contract, correct? Just a one-year contract?
Does it say 1 year in duration anywhere there? I don't, it could have a duration. I don't recall seeing a duration. Do you remember a duration?
I do not remember the duration.
And I think in conversations with them, the way this works is they don't fix a time on it. And ideally, I guess to kind of dovetail this into some of your questions, Alderman Perkins, if
Yes,
it's
sir.
successful, I would hope as soon as they're ready to roll somebody out of our system into the private sector, they would have another individual that's interested in training. So I would hope this would go on perpetually. But the important part about it, again, is that termination clause. In the event that anything should go wrong or should be unexpected, we are bound to do absolutely nothing but notify them that we no longer will be a part of the contract.
Mr. Mayor, this is certainly a win-win situation, though.
Yeah. My second question was, do you foresee any reduction in force in the number of, do you think over time, if this works and they want to add 2 or 3 more people, do you see a reduction in force being possible? Or
A reduction.
how do you think there'll be a job eliminated by somebody else being able to volunteer and do the same?
I don't anticipate that. These are part-time workers. I'm hoping that we'll get 2. So we have the equivalent of 40 hours a week to sit at the desk. But I would anticipate, should it be wildly successful and we could have some additional help, there are certainly other additional functions that they could take on that wouldn't displace somebody in a job.
Mayor, may I address that? The contract, Alderman Parker mentions, mentions, I give you credit for that. Mentions that the assignment of participants shall not displace existing workers or decrease existing contracts for services. So it expressly spells out that no current workers will be displaced by these temporary workers.
Thank you.
Mr. Carver, excuse me.
Further discussion. Any further discussion?
Mayor, I would move that we approve the contract with Experience Works to provide personnel for the reception welcome desk at City Hall.
Alderman Corey has made a motion to approve a contract with Experience Works to provide personnel to staff the reception welcome desk at City Hall. Alderman Corey, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Dumas. Alderman Corey, do you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter for discussion on the agenda is the approval of the claims docket for the fire department.
Mayor, I'm gonna ask to recuse myself.
We'll give Alderman Carver a moment and Ms. Outlaw a moment to get to the desk.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So moved.
A motion has been made to approve the claim Claims docket as of November 24th, 2009 for the City of Starkville Fire Department. Alderman Dumas, that's your motion.
It is.
There is a second.
Second.
The motion been seconded by Alderman Corey. Alderman Dumas, you wish to speak on the merit?
I do not.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. We'll give Alderman Carver a second to get back in the round. All right, next matter for discussion is a request for the approval of a bad debt collections agreement with American Municipal Services. Ms. Outlaw.
This is the collection agreement with American Municipal Services is for the entire city collection efforts. And I was requesting that we enter into an agreement with AMS, American Municipal Services, out of, and they're based in Texas. They have, they've been in business 16 years. They have serviced over 275 cities within 7 states. Mississippi is, they have a state contract with Mississippi, and they just got the contract, and they're moving into the Mississippi area. They have one other city in Mississippi, but no data was forwarded on their collection efforts. And they did, I talked with them, and they gave me the impression that they would be firm but polite. They are going to send out letters, do skip tracing, make phone calls, and all of this is at no additional charge to the city. Any collections made, the city would get the full amount of the debt owed, and they will, the state allows them to attach their collection fee.
Alderman Perkins.
Mr. Mayor, I didn't request for this to be pulled off, but let me ask the clerk. Clerk, we just share with the mayor and the board some of the city's past experiences. Not that it's been bad, but share with the board our having engaged a collection agency in the past. I think we engaged a company to collect mainly for the courts, and just share with the mayor and the board the city's experience and how we are looking to better the process, and explain to the board the breakdown in the percentage of the collection between the city clerk's entity and that collection entity versus what we are proposing here.
Okay, in the past, we've had the courts have had a collection agency, have employed a collection agency, and their breakdown was 70-30 or 75-25. But they've since not used them because Mr. Rook said that he didn't see any gain from it because we were getting 75% and they were getting 25%, and most of the work was still on the court. The burden was still on the court. The electric department used a collection services, but just recently I talked with Ed, and I think this past year his write-off debt was about $75,000. The sanitation's bad debt write-off was about $10,000. So we're even though they were using those collection services, they were not. I don't think they were very motivated because they were going to get, part of the whatever collection was. But this company, because we're getting 100% and they're getting an additional 25%, they'll be more motivated to collect. If they don't collect, then they don't get paid. So therefore it make them more motivated to do due diligence in collecting and sending out letters and making the phone calls.
Mr. Mayor, one last question to the clerk, if I may. Clerk, if the board approved this, would you just inform us, kind of give us periodic reports, just letting us know how this works, so we'll be knowing how this is working once the collection entity, if the board approves this, is moving forward on collecting the monies.
Certainly, sure.
Okay.
So this is an umbrella agreement that will cover or the courts, the electric
Yes.
department, those type things.
Yep,
So they
it
wouldn't
is.
have their individual agreements anymore. This would cover the entire city.
That's right, it'd be citywide.
And then that we'll get our 100% money and they get that 25%.
That's correct.
Okay.
Alderman Parker.
Mayor, I was the one that asked it to be taken off consent, just because I wanted to make sure that we had, I do agree that if we're owed money, we should do everything we can to collect that money. I just want to make sure that, you know, we've all probably heard horror stories of collection agencies and some of the tactics they might take, and it could, you know, I just want to make sure that we do a diligent job of keeping up with this collection agency, if they're gonna be collecting our debt, and making sure we're kind of policing them, and because they could quickly give the city a bad name if they use some tactics that aren't quite right.
And I did, I spoke with Mr. Parsons, he's the vice president of the company, and spoke with him, and he did, he said they treat the people that they're collecting from like they're customers of theirs, so they are firm, but they are polite with them, so.
Mr. Mayor, one last thing. The gentleman from 3 made some good comments. That's why I want to make sure I get a report. We want to make sure that they're, you know, treating the systems polite, you know, and those are his representations. You know, we hear representations many times, but yet they're not delivered as they are represented to us. So if y'all could police and, you know, and monitor that and give us reports, because we'll make sure that we have the proper entity, you know, doing and treating the people, you know, politely and fairly and properly.
Marquita, you mentioned that that they had just entered into a state contract. Are there any other municipalities using this company right now?
Within the state of Mississippi, he said he only had one other municipality that was not as large as Starkville. And they had no data from it because they just started, they just entered into the agreement with the state.
Okay.
Alderman Sistro.
I agree that a collection agency can be a tremendous tool in collecting bad debts. The one thing I'd like for us to be sure that we do is that we review our collection policies within each city agency that's going to be using this, and be sure that people are notified somehow before this is turned over to the collection agency, so that they have an opportunity to settle their debt prior to referral to a collection agency.
And that's what we were gonna set up, is the 2 letters, and the third one, you know, saying that you're being turned over to the collection agency, so.
Mr. Mayor, may I address a concern that Alderman Parker had? There are 3 provisions in the contract that protect against unlawful collection practices. One of them is in paragraph 2, which says that the calls can only be in the day and in early evenings, only half a day on Saturdays, and no calls on Sunday. And the very last paragraph on the first page, it says that the company AMS agrees to constantly monitor their employees to ensure all contacts with defendants are done in a polite, courteous, and helpful approach. And then thirdly, there's an indemnification agreement attached to both the contract for utilities and the contract for the courts, that says that to the extent anyone would have a claim that they're being harassed, and that claim would blow back against Starkville, that AMS would indemnify Starkville for that. So those are 3 pretty good protections in the contract.
Thank you.
Further discussion. Alderman Corey.
Mayor, I move that we go ahead and approve the collection agreement with American Municipal Services as provided.
Alderman Corey has made a motion to approve the collection agreement with American Municipal Services as provided. Alderman Corey, is that your motion?
Yes.
Do I hear a second? Second. Motion been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Corey, you will speak on the merits. Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Outlaw. All right, that concludes the written portion of our agenda. A motion to recess would be in order.
Mayor, I move we recess until December 15th, 2009 at 5:30.
Alderman Parker's made a motion to recess until December 15th, 2009 at 5:30. Alderman Parker, is that your motion?
It is.
There's a second.
Second.
Motion been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. That clearly passes. We stand in recess.
The passage of time. We have shared your joy at the birth of your children, and proudly we have watched them grow. We've taken care of your health care needs during the good times and the not so good. Your parents and grandparents have depended upon us. Together we have shared the struggles and the wonders of life. At Oktibbeha County Hospital, we are celebrating 30 years of being your lifelong choice in health care.